Transition and permaculture movements are closely linked, and the garden is part of both. Transitioning successfully is about finding a balance between the head, where we act on the best information and evidence available, the heart, where we work with compassion and respect, and the hands, where we turn our visions and ideas into tangible reality. Permaculture is about careful observation, thought, and design. It's a design-intensive approach to sustainable living. It recognises that nature is full of earth-savvy organisms and flourishing ecosystems, so it takes inspiration from these to develop ecologically harmonious, efficient, and productive designs. The red Venn diagram is where we are: environmental destruction, human suffering, and the unfair treatment of all species. And we must change, but we must change by design. We need to be at the green Venn diagram. We need to care for the earth and people and share fairly. And it is these three that are the core ethics of permaculture. Einstein said that the significant problems we have cannot be solved at the same level of thinking with which we created them. Permaculture agrees. It recognises that humans are rubbish at deep, holistic thinking, and it addresses this issue with well-thought-out approach strategies. In order to achieve designs which fit our ethics, permaculturists use 12 principles which help us work within nature. On top of this, observation, analysis, and thinking techniques are used, and there are a plethora of adages, concepts, and quotes to keep us on the right track. Permaculturists share knowledge and ideas freely to create a multifaceted community of designers full of connections and support. Then there is other associated knowledge and ideas gained from research, designs and practices, plus trial and error over the ages. And of course, then there's our greatest teacher, the natural world. For the rest of this presentation, I'm going to show pictures from the garden and link them to permaculture's principles and some of the more popular adages it uses to keep us on track when we're designing. We must observe and interact and think deeply to solve problems. There's a tendency to cope with the symptoms of problems rather than solve the problems themselves, and this needs to change. This herb spiral is a permaculture design for a wet place with cold, wet clay soil. It creates a herb-friendly Mediterranean style of environment. There's drier soil at the top, and there are sunnier and shadier patches. There's loads of nooks and crannies for the invertebrates, and the bricks absorb heat from the sun and radiate it out when the sun has gone, adding extra heat to the system. In the case of the garden, obtaining a yield in the form of local organic crops is obvious. But there are other yields. There's community cohesion, friendships, emotional well-being, education, physical health, and an amazing space to be in. It is yields that help us to maintain motivation and momentum. This principle deals with the self-regulatory aspects of permaculture that limit and discourage inappropriate actions. We need the right scale of both environment and community to get good feedback, so we can be aware of the consequences of our actions, both good and bad. With globalization and the internet, the ramifications are often out of sight, and there's a sense of disconnection. With the garden, feedback is clear, allowing us to feel both connected and fulfilled. A large proportion of our garden equipment is second-hand or recycled. We use and reinvent in all sorts of ways. The garden as a whole provides entertainment and activities that don't involve consumption or pollution. Creation is far more empowering than consumption. Our waste should never be wasted. The compost created in this toilet will go back to the soil in our wooded areas. Creating cycles within a system and avoiding leaks from it is an important part of permaculture design. In the natural world, fruit trees live on the edges of woodland in undisturbed soil, and this is the general pattern we've copied for our fruit trees. Nature stacks things. It's usually very 3D, and the woodland edges have layers of large trees, smaller trees, shrubs, leafy greens, ground cover, and soil life. So this is what we've done in the garden. We've put much effort into building habitat boosters for other species. We've many bird boxes, a pond, buried logs, a spring woodland flower bed, small meadow, hedgehog and bat boxes, and an area just to be left wild. Hopefully we will have plenty of allies to help control our crop pests. Creating a community garden is a small part of a movement active in creating more resilient and fairer environments and societies. It's a slow process, but more and more community gardens are blossoming. There is a lot to be angry about, and it can overwhelm us if we don't balance it with something hopeful and positive like a garden. Every person is different, comes with different skills, perspectives, and approaches. Harnessed well, this can create a hugely powerful force. This corner stacks a lot into a small space. The green roof provides small flowers, good for solitary bees. The observational bee home provides both a nest site and an educational aid. Under the butt is a den full of leaves and twigs, and the butt provides water for a small pond that keeps a pot of clay damp for bees to build their nests with, and to provide water for other small creatures. We need to respond to the climate changes and environmental destruction we're seeing in creative ways. The permaculture and transition movements are part of the wider green movement and are sometimes perceived as being a bit hippyish. They are not a hippie thing, they are a survival thing. The point of both the permaculture and transition movements is to take responsibility for our own existence and that of future generations by working to create conditions conducive to life.